The horse's hooves kicked up clouds of red dust, each step pounding the silence into a rhythm of unease. He gripped the reins tighter, eyes narrowing at the jagged cliffs ahead, where the sun struck the stone like fire. The farm loomed beyond a crooked gate, half hidden by heat waves that made the air shimmer. Tracks crisscrossed the dirt road, deep, deliberate, and far too large for any ordinary person. A sudden creak split the air, the gate swinging open before he could touch it. 3 shadows filled the threshold, enormous and unyielding, blocking the path with a confidence that pressed down on him like the desert sun. He forced his horse to stop, nostrils flaring against the scent of dust and wild herbs. "You're here," said the tallest one, voice deep, calm, and strangely melodic. "We've been waiting." The second stepped forward, boots crunching against dry earth. She was taller than any woman he'd ever seen, shoulders broad, arms like coiled ropes of muscle. "You thought you bought a farm," she said, tilting her head, "but you don't own anything here." A third appeared behind them, and even from a distance, her gaze was sharp, almost predatory. Her hair glinted in the sunlight, and the shadows of the house stretched behind her like a warning. "The land has rules," she added, "and you'll learn them whether you want to or not." The horse shifted, restless. He could feel the tension vibrating through the wooden handle of his saddle. Every instinct screamed caution, but curiosity prided him with a force he hadn't felt in years. The heat made sweat bead at his brow, dripping down into his eyes, stinging, sharpening his focus. Dust swirled around their boots as they moved, the air thick with an unspoken command. The tallest reached out, her fingers brushing the reins as if testing him, measuring his reaction. He pulled back instinctively, feeling the weight of their gaze lock onto him. And for the first time since leaving the war behind, adrenaline surged through his veins. A wind picked up, carrying the faint sound of a distant rattler and the hollow clatter of a loose shutter. He swallowed hard, hearing the crunch of gravel underfoot as they circled the horse, their towering presence making the earth itself seem smaller. "You'll stay," said the second, voice low but unwavering. "And you'll do as we say." The third smiled faintly, a curl of lips that promised challenge and danger in equal measure. "We've protected this place longer than you've known the world existed," she said. "And now, it's your turn to learn its weight." The horse snorted, stamping, and he felt the pull of its fear mingling with his own. But beneath that fear, beneath the sweat and dust and sunburned tension, something stirred, a spark of anticipation, a memory of battles survived and dangers faced. He dismounted slowly, boots crunching into the dust, eyes fixed on the 3 giants before him. The land was theirs, the rules were theirs, and yet, the moment he stepped onto the farm, he knew the story had just begun. He stepped into the farmhouse, dust clinging to his boots, eyes scanning every massive piece of furniture. The floorboards groaned under the weight of their owners, each creak a reminder that he was outmatched, not just in size, but in presence. The tallest woman leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching every twitch of his body. "You think you can just wander through?" she asked, voice calm but sharp. "Everything here moves on its own terms." A sudden crash made him jerk back. A crate overturned in the corner, spilling tools that clattered across the floor like gunfire. The second woman appeared beside it, lifting the crate single-handedly, setting it upright with a strength that made his chest tighten. "Careful," she said, eyes narrowing. "Even the smallest mistake can cost you here." He swallowed, noticing the way their gazes followed him, like predators marking territory. Each room seemed oversized, almost alive, as if designed for giants. Doors were taller, tables broader, chairs sturdier than any human scale. He felt the strain of stepping into this world, every movement measured, every gesture under scrutiny. The third woman appeared behind him, hair catching the light, eyes flicking to a shelf where a pistol lay angled toward the doorway. "We test everyone first," she said. "Some fail. Some survive. Few earn respect." A sudden gust of wind rattled the shutters. Dust danced across the floor in twisting spirals. He noticed marks in the wood, scratches, gouges, evidence of past struggles. The women moved through the room with an ease that betrayed experience, their size and strength making even ordinary tasks seem like effortless demonstrations of control. "You'll need to learn quickly," the tallest said, stepping closer, each footfall reverberating in the hall. "The land doesn't forgive hesitation." He nodded, but hesitation was already clawing at him. The weight of the farm pressed on his shoulders like the sun overhead. Sweat stung his eyes, and his hands itched to test his own reflexes, to move, to fight, or at least survive. The second woman reached out, tapping a hand against his chest, testing his balance. "Strength isn't enough. You need wit. You need awareness. You need timing." He felt the pulse of the land beneath his boots, the subtle vibrations in the floorboards, the faint echo of distant animals, the wind threading through the gaps in the walls. Every sound, every movement mattered. Every misstep will be noticed. "You understand?" she asked, voice low, sharp as a knife. He met her gaze, heart thudding, and nodded again. Understanding was only the first step. Survival, he realized, meant learning faster than he ever had. The tallest woman tilted her head, a faint smirk crossing her lips. "Good. You'll need it. There are things on this land, secrets that demand attention, and they don't like fools." He could feel the air tighten around him, like the farm itself was watching, breathing, judging. The women stepped aside, silently waiting, as he moved deeper into the hall. Every creak of the boards, every shadow flickering across the walls was a test. And somewhere in the back of his mind, the memory of battles past whispered. He had faced enemies before, but nothing like this. Here, the land itself was alive, and he had just entered its domain. A dust cloud roared over the horizon, swallowing the sun in a haze of heat and menace. He crouched behind the low stone wall, fingers brushing the grit that coated every surface, heart hammering in time with the approaching hoofbeats. The wind carried the metallic scent of gunpowder before the first shots even rang out. "Outlaws," muttered the tallest woman, stepping beside him, boots crunching against the scorched earth. She lifted her rifle with fluid precision, scanning the horizon. Her shadow stretched long, intimidating, almost larger than the rising dust itself. The first rider appeared, hat low, rifle glinting. He fired, the crack of the shot ripping through the air, and the ground erupted in a plume of dirt where he had aimed. The veteran ducked instinctively, rolling behind a barrel. One of the women dove forward, seizing a fallen plank and swinging it with astonishing force, knocking a second rider off his horse before he could reload. He felt the heat in his chest, the weight of every heartbeat as adrenaline surged. His own hands found a pistol, fingers brushing the worn grip, old reflexes snapping into place. Years of war sharpened his aim, even in this unfamiliar terrain, and he sighted the nearest rider before they could react. The second woman moved with brutal grace, picking up a heavy chain and snapping it across the lead horse's legs. The animal stumbled, throwing its rider to the dust with a thud that echoed across the canyon. Dust and sweat mingled in his eyes, but he didn't flinch. Every sound, the creak of saddles, the rattle of ammunition, the women's controlled shouts, guided him like a map. A third rider tried to flank them from the left, and he raised his pistol, firing a precise shot that sent the man tumbling into the dirt. The wind whistled through the canyons, carrying the clatter of weapons and the roar of battle. The women's strength made the impossible ordinary, rocks thrown with brutal force, fences toppled to block passage, every movement calculated and deadly. "Focus," the tallest woman yelled. "Don't give them ground." He pressed himself against the stone, reloading quickly, feeling the rhythm of the battle sink into muscle memory. Every flinch, every calculated breath mattered. He began noticing the patterns, the riders' approaches, the way the wind shifted dust to blind them, the way the canyon funneled sound to give away their position. The second woman grabbed him by the arm, pulling him toward a narrow ridge. "Watch the shadows," she barked. "They think this land is open. They're wrong." A bullet hissed past his ear, scraping stone, and he tensed, heart hammering. Sweat burned his eyes, dust filling his throat, but beneath it all, clarity emerged. The land itself seemed to pulse beneath their feet, and he understood instinctively how to turn it against the outlaws. The women moved in tandem with him now, their massive forms unstoppable, their eyes sharp as hawks. He fired again, each shot deliberate, each breath measured. Together, they became an unyielding force, the outlaws' confidence cracking with every move. And even as the canyon rang with chaos, he sensed it. The hidden advantage, the rhythm of the farm itself, waiting for him to use it. Gunfire shattered the canyon air, sparks flying as bullets ricocheted off stone and wood. He pressed against the ridge, sweat blinding him, ears ringing from the deafening echoes. The outlaws pressed closer, their shouts ragged, but he saw the opening, the narrow pass that could turn their momentum into a trap. Now, the tallest woman yelled, her voice cutting through chaos. She lunged, swinging a massive wooden beam, knocking a rider sideways into the dust. The second woman toppled a stacked fence, sending a cascade of timber into another's path. The third towered behind him, muscles coiled, ripping a barrel from its post to block the flanking horsemen. He moved instinctively, years of war guiding every step, every shot. A rider aimed at him, and he twisted, firing with precision. The man went down, face hitting the dirt with a sickening thud. Behind him, the women's roars of triumph mingled with the metallic ring of guns, each action synchronized, unstoppable. A sudden whistle of wind carried a shadow, another outlaw trying to flank through the canyon rocks. He dove, rolling, and realized then what had been hidden all along. The farm itself was a weapon. Every ridge, every dip, every scatter of stone and debris could be used. He calculated angles, predicted movements, and turned the land into a labyrinth of peril for the attackers. The outlaws faltered, confusion flashing across their faces. Ow! One gasped before a massive hand knocked him sideways into the dust. The hero rose, firing another round, the bullet grazing a horse to halt it, sending its rider sprawling. The women moved like living walls of strength, their massive forms making ordinary combat seem effortless. He realized their true power wasn't just muscle. It was strategy, timing, and intuition sharpened by years of defending this land. A hush fell for a moment, broken only by heavy breathing and the scuff of boots on dirt. The outlaws hesitated, realizing the tide had turned, the farm itself bending to the hero's command. He signaled with a slight tilt of his head, and the women responded instantly, closing gaps, hurting foes, striking with uncanny precision. One by one, the attackers fell, some crawling, some thrown aside, until silence reigned. The wind stirred, carrying the dust and echoes of battle. He lowered his pistol, chest heaving, heart hammering, and finally saw them. The three giant women, standing tall, victorious, their eyes gleaming with respect and approval. You've the tallest said, voice soft now, almost reverent. You've learned, faster than anyone we've known. The second nodded, brushing dust from her arms. The land chose well. The third stepped forward, a faint smile breaking across her face. And so the story grows. Legends don't just happen. They are earned in fire and blood. He looked around, the canyon silent except for the settling dust. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the farm, and in that moment he understood. He was no longer a visitor. He was part of this land, its defender, its hidden strength revealed. The women's trust, the battle won, and the secrets of the farm. The hero had become a legend. The wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the echoes of their victory, and the storyteller would say for generations to come. And that day, the veteran and the three giant women carve a tale into the red earth that no soul would ever forget.